Foreign trade is no longer viable. Can we switch to domestic trade? I visited a clothing store today. Take a look. Every item here is priced at 19 yuan, about $2. The material feels really nice. And this is still a physical store that has to pay rent. I checked and it says the fabric is 40% cotton and made in Anshan Liaoning. A t-shirt with 40% cotton is being sold for 19 yuan in a physical store. The fabric feels decent. Apart from the 19 yuan items, there are pants for 10 yuan, 15 yuan, pajamas for 9 yuan, socks for 1 yuan, some protection clothing for 39 yuan, and even some clothes just for a few yuan. They even offer free ironing, free alterations, free charging, and free storage. If foreign trade isn't working, how are we supposed to make domestic trade work? I saw a news story today that completely shocked me. JD.com is going to purchase 200 billion yuan worth of exported goods and sell them domestically. This is a huge mess. There's overcapacity in the domestic market, and prices are ridiculously low. There are countless items priced at 9.9 yuan with free shipping, and they're good quality too. Every business is engaged in a price war, and survival has become the new standard. JD.com is now bringing in products meant for export to sell domestically. This will squeeze the already fragile business environment. Originally, those 200 billion yuan worth of export goods would be equivalent to 300 billion yuan in domestic sales, since export goods are typically affordable and high quality. That means the GDP could instantly drop by 300 billion yuan. Let me give you an example. There are 3 breakfast shops near my house. They're all doing pretty well. A pancake and a cup of soy milk cost 8 yuan. But then a big company comes in, wanting to push out these 3 shops and starts selling the same for 4 yuan. These 3 shops have to compete with this big company in a price war, but the big company's cost for the pancake and soy milk is only 2 yuan. How can these small shops compete? In the end, they'll have no choice but to shut down. JD.com's move to redirect export goods to the domestic market will disrupt their current business order. If JD.com profits, will other big companies follow? Then it'll be total chaos. Under the intense tariff war, China's foreign trade industry is facing significant challenges, with profits shrinking sharply. Take the clothing industry, for example. Due to the tariffs, orders have been forced to pause, and profits have dwindled to the point where businesses can no longer continue. Some textile factories have shut down. The stagnation of the foreign trade market for clothing has led more foreign trade companies to shift to the domestic market, competing for domestic orders. This, in turn, will exacerbate overcapacity and industry competition in the already weak domestic market, leaving many businesses struggling to survive. The tariffs currently imposed by the United States on China have reached 145%, while China's tariffs on the United States are at 125%. The trade relationship between the two countries has essentially been decoupled. As the tariff war between China and the United States intensifies, Chinese Premier Li Qiang hosted a meeting with experts and entrepreneurs on April 9, emphasizing the need to strengthen domestic circulation and make expanding domestic demand a long-term strategy. On April 11th, JD.com announced that within the next year, it would purchase no less than 200 billion yuan worth of products originally meant for export, but now redirected for the domestic market. This move aims to help foreign trade companies quickly expand into the domestic market. However, over the past 2 years, China's economy has been in a continuous decline, and with citizens downgrading their consumption, domestic demand has been weak, which is now an open secret. While the Chinese government retaliates against the U.S., it is preparing for a long-term anti-U.S. stance, portraying the trade war as a battle to defend national dignity and urging the public to prepare for tough times ahead. Many foreign trade companies that shift to the domestic market hope to connect with major wholesalers through trade shows and other channels, mimicking the foreign trade model, but this path is almost completely blocked as well.
Didn't JD.com offer a 200 billion yuan subsidy to encourage foreign trade businesses to switch to the domestic market? So I thought I would check out an exhibition for domestic trade in Shanghai to see if there were any opportunities. People in foreign trade have been struggling with high tariffs lately, and orders are becoming fewer and fewer. We are all worried that the company won't survive much longer. But when I got to the exhibition in Shanghai, I was stunned. It was so quiet. There were more staff than visitors. I started to wonder if I had come to the wrong place. Then I looked at the prices. My competitors were slashing their prices to grab customers. The profits were pitiful, and it felt like everyone was just working hard without making any real money. I thought domestic trade might be an option, but it's even harder than foreign trade. I've decided not to get involved in this messy domestic market. After attending the domestic trade exhibition, you'll realize just how good the foreign trade environment was.
Mr. Cao, the CEO of Dinghong Ice and Snow Sports, recently shared a video that his American clients have asked him to move his factory overseas. He has already started preparations in Vietnam, as Vietnam has negotiated with the United States for zero tariffs. He believes Vietnam will find ways to lower tariffs. If we have a factory in Vietnam, many major brands will shift their orders to us. Mr. Cao pointed out that major ski brands are currently based in the United States, and Chinese ski brands are struggling. Unlike other countries, the Chinese government's retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. have been met with American countermeasures, placing Chinese companies in a difficult position. He said, the ones suffering the most are private companies, especially foreign trade enterprises. He also mentioned that Chinese domestic enterprises are affected too, now that many domestic businesses, like those producing cardboard boxes, have to rely on foreign trade companies too. He stated, in fact, many domestic orders are driven by foreign trade. He hopes the government will not rush to retaliate, as China's export economy still plays a large role in its overall economy. The Chinese government has emphasized using domestic demand to drive the economy, but Mr. Cao said that the more a company focuses on the domestic market, the greater the losses. In China, production is already excessive. Many businesses are losing money, even though it might appear busy. Mr. Cao added that he has 4 or 5 factories still operating, relying on foreign trade orders, but if they depend on domestic orders, they would be losing money. I do so much in the domestic market every year, but it's all a loss. The domestic orders just aren't profitable. He predicts that many Chinese domestic companies will go bankrupt this year. You'll see many companies shut down by the end of the year. By now, many might already feel it. Mr. Cao noted that it is now easier to hire workers, and rent for factory buildings has decreased. I used to pay 21 yuan per square meter for rent. Now it's less than 10 yuan, which is less than half the original price. It's been reported that many in the industry believe other countries will follow the U.S. lead, as the U.S. stance is clear. Other countries are likely to impose tariffs on China, with tariffs set to rise by 35% to 50%. The tariff war has caused clothing goods to get stuck at ports, and foreign trade business owners are now holding live stream sales to clear their stock. Today, I visited a dockyard in Shenzhen, where land is being reclaimed. I came to check out some leftover containers. As you can see, we have 10 containers stuck here as well. These are all ours, the first, second, fourth, and sixth ones. Take a look at these products. They're all stuck here. The main reason I'm here today is to handle the storage fees for these products at the port. If we don't ship them out, we'll still have to pay storage fees. Come to my live stream, and for just a little over 200 yuan, you could buy products that would normally sell for thousands of yuan in the UK. If you don't make the purchase today, it might be gone by tomorrow. These are high-quality export products. We might need to end the live stream soon. One container holds about 30,000 pieces of clothing, and we have many containers stuck right now. Even if we ship these products out, we'll still incur a loss, so we've decided to clear them out quickly. A TikToker specializing in finance from Nanjing shared in a video, many foreign trade factories will definitely reduce their production capacity and lay off workers. A large number of people may lose their jobs. If they want to survive, factories that can't secure foreign trade orders will have to shift to the domestic market. But will domestic factories start competing with each other? The result will be everyone competing with one another. Don't expect the domestic market to absorb this overcapacity. A dramatic turn occurred in the U.S.-China tariff war. On April 11th, China announced it would increase retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. to 125%. However, it also added that if the U.S. continues to raise tariffs on China, China would simply ignore it. The day before, China declared it would fight to the end. But just a day later, it quickly reversed its stance and said it would not pay attention. This shift has been interpreted as China's leverage in the tariff war nearing exhaustion. To cope with U.S. tariff pressure, apart from encouraging foreign trade businesses to shift from export to domestic sales, China has been actively seeking cooperation with the EU and Southeast Asian countries. However, if the U.S.-China tariff war continues, Chinese products may shift to other overseas markets, but these countries have already expressed their intent to negotiate and cooperate with the U.S. China's hope of gaining support from Belt and Road countries in the trade war are unlikely to materialize. The U.S. holds more leverage, including decoupling securities, forcing Chinese companies to delist, banning the settlement of Chinese bonds in U.S. dollars, a comprehensive technology blockade, including chip sale bans, restrictions on talent exchange, freezing assets and international joint sanctions. Su Ji-yun, director of the Defense Strategy and Resources Institute at the National Defense Security Research Institute in Taiwan, emphasized that the U.S. controls market discourse and can negotiate with 75 countries to replace China in global supply chains. Trump's tariff war targeted the imbalance in U.S.-China trade, forcing China into a trade showdown. The Chinese government has shown a tough stance, seemingly dismissing the U.S.'s tactics, with similar rhetoric in state-run media and online. Some content creators have stepped forward to stabilize the situation, claiming that the U.S.-China trade war has little effect on Chinese citizens, and the real victims are the American people. In reality, not only is China's foreign trade industry heavily impacted, but even upstream and downstream businesses are facing difficulties. Export factories in Zhejiang and Guangdong, two major foreign trade provinces, are facing production halts, with warehouses full of goods originally meant for export. Many business owners have spoken out online, saying that a large number of orders have been canceled, and finished goods have no buyers, leading to piles of inventory in warehouses and even at ports. Customers lose only a small deposit, but businesses bear all the losses. Without orders, factories can only stop production. Today, negative sentiment is spreading in Chinese society. There are even some discussions online on how to eat tree bark. According to Radio Free Asia, a user from Jiangsu, Mr. Hong, said that public pessimism about society is growing. Not only young people, but even people in their 80s are feeling pessimistic about the future, with no clear direction ahead. Mrs. Zhang from Qingdao, Shandong, said that across various industries, the economy is showing signs of decline, and people are feeling helpless. All foreign trade businesses are struggling, especially in Guangdong and Zhejiang, where the tariff war has had the biggest impact. The technology and economy sectors are stagnant. He said that if the Chinese government mishandles the situation, it could collapse. Outside observers believe that the fundamental strategic opposition between China and the U.S. cannot be concealed or reconciled. China's space for retaliation is limited, and the next 90 days of negotiations will be crucial in determining whether the two countries will fully decouple or find a limited compromise. China expert Yang Wei believes that if both sides remain firm on tariffs, China's direct exports to the U.S. may quickly decrease, possibly even to zero, leading to rapid economic decoupling. However, China's imports from the U.S. will be harder to reduce to zero. Yang Wei analyzed that Trump's announcement of a 145% tariff increase meant that for every dollar's worth of goods China exports to the U.S., it will now need to pay $1.5 in tariffs. The tariff has already surpassed the value of the goods themselves. In 2024, the U.S. imported approximately $438.9 billion worth of goods from China, while exporting about $143.5 billion worth of goods to China, with a trade deficit of approximately $300 billion. If trade volume remains the same in 2025, tariffs on Chinese goods imported to the U.S. will increase to $636.4 billion, based on a 145% tariff rate. Meanwhile, tariffs on Chinese imports from the U.S. will rise $179.4 billion, based on a 125% tariff rate. The difference between the two would be around $457 billion. This could turn the U.S.-China trade deficit into a trade surplus for the U.S., but this is unlikely to happen. The more likely scenario is that, even if direct trade between the U.S. and China doesn't reach zero, it will be significantly reduced if neither side makes concessions. The U.S. imports about $438.9 billion worth of goods from China, most of which can be sourced from alternative suppliers. Other countries will be eager to fill the gap. According to China's list of top 5 export categories to the U.S., they are electrical machinery and equipment, accounting for 24%, machinery accounting for 17.6%, furniture and bedding at 6%, toys, games, and sports products at 5%, and plastic products at 4.5%. The Chinese government will try to increase exports to the U.S. through third-party countries, such as Southeast Asia, but these countries are already under U.S. scrutiny. The two largest sectors, including electrical machinery and equipment and machinery, may not be able to simply relabel the products. If Chinese companies move their assembly lines to Southeast Asia, it will require significant effort and result in large losses. A large number of factories will be left idle or scrapped, and many workers will lose their jobs. Training a similar workforce in Southeast Asia will also take time. The key issue is that President Trump can adjust tariffs at any time, which would make it difficult for those countries to assist China in evading tariffs. China imports about $143.5 billion worth of goods from the U.S., some of which could be sourced from alternative suppliers, but some are difficult to replace. The top 5 categories of goods China imports from the U.S. are mineral fuels, accounting for 14%, machinery, 12%, electrical machinery and equipment, 11%, optical, photographic, and surgical instruments accounts for 7.8%, and oilseeds, 7.7%. China cannot avoid buying high-end electrical and mechanical equipment, medical instruments, and other products from the U.S. In practice, China may secretly exempt these goods from tariffs or purchase them through third countries, but the prices will be marked up. China may avoid directly purchasing U.S. energy and agricultural products, but still might acquire them through third countries with an added cost. China has suspended orders for U.S. aircraft, but parts for maintenance must still be purchased. Specialty vehicles, medicines, seeds, and some chemicals from the U.S. are also essential for China. Director Su Ziyun at Taiwan's National Defense Research Institute believes that Beijing's actions are purely about face. In general, when tariffs exceed 50%, they lose their deterrent effect because the goods become difficult to sell in the market. He added that Trump is using tariffs to force a trade battle, while Xi Jinping cannot show weakness. As a result, both sides have raised their tariffs to 125%, and any further increase will be meaningless. He said, however, the ball is still in Washington's court for both Beijing and Washington, noting that Beijing is a party benefiting from the trade surplus. The U.S. remains China's largest export market, with nearly $300 billion in surplus. He remarked, that is to say, this punch will still hurt Beijing deeply. Su Ziyun pointed out that the U.S. remains the largest global market. For the U.S., the key is to quickly find countries willing to negotiate within the next 90 days to secure affordable goods for U.S. consumers. If the U.S. achieves this, it will be in a strong position and essentially invincible. There is a possibility that prices for daily goods could double in the U.S., which could hurt Trump politically. If alternative sources are found, Xi Jinping will likely face serious challenges. Su Ziyun added that despite Beijing's efforts over the past 4 years to diversify its markets and reduce reliance on the U.S. to around 15%, this 15% is still critically important to Xi Jinping. It could lead to millions of job losses almost immediately.